Today on the Worldview Bros, we talk about America, in particular the Declaration of Independence. Did the founders really mean it when they said that all men are created equal? What exactly do we mean by equality anyways? And what's so important about this document? I mean, isn't the Constitution the true founding of the United States? We will discuss in full in this very patriotic edition of the Worldview Bros.
Good morning, my fellow human beings. Welcome to the Worldview Bros. I'm Sal. This is my brother Jim, a.k.a. Slippin' Jimmy, a.k.a. Brogo Baggins, a.k.a. Big Jumbo Jim, Big Jumbo Jim, a.k.a. If I can remember some of these, a.k.a. Butterbeard, a.k.a. Dukinator. Jim, how you doing?
Big Jimbo? What are you trying to say?
I was thinking of jumbo shrimp. Jumbo.
Yeah, no, I get it. You know, I'm doing all right. I'm feeling it.
Ready for our fishing trip tomorrow with our dad?
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
I'm not anticipating catching anything.
I know. Yeah, especially with all this rain. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but it just seems like with all the rain, it's going to be a reason. Like, oh yeah, all this extra water. We didn't catch any fish.
I'm kind of just thinking like the last 2 times I went to Grapevine Lake, I didn't catch anything. So yeah, just going with the statistics on that one.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Okay, so we have a lot in store today for the show, guys. Our patriotic show. Okay. Make sure to like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Send us an email. Please send us an email at theworldviewbros@gmail.com and subscribe to our channel. Also, catch us on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah, we're on iTunes.
We're moving up in the world.
I know. So tell your uncle and your mom and your grandma. I don't know.
Yeah, check it out.
Whoever's into audio, like I don't know. If you
or in the car. If you're in the car, you can listen to our beautiful voices. Again, so we have a lot in store. We're going to be talking all things Declaration of Independence, equality and freedom, and just really digging into what the founders say about these things. It's always fun to do that. You know, I know you're pretty excited about it today, and I am as well.
Yeah, I am. I mean, it's really my cup of tea, like what I really learned in college. And so, for instance, let me plug this book from this is my favorite professor when I went to college, and this is called The Political Theory of the American Founding, Thomas G. West. And guys, this is actually the best. I know he was my professor, I get it, but honestly, it's the best book that you can get on what the theory of the American founding even is. Like, what is the American political thought? There's no better person than Thomas G. West. And so some of the ideas that we'll be analyzing have to do with his book. So he did all the heavy lifting, for instance, with gathering all the data, documents of early colonial America and the Revolutionary period. So
awesome. Again, so we're going to be unfolding all that. We have a game. And we have our classic hate and like, bringing hate and like back.
Yeah, sweet.
I think it's been a little while since we've done that. So, let's do this.
Yeah, so the idea is we want to unpack the Declaration of Independence. We have 4th of July coming up, and so obviously Independence Day, and we know that our Declaration of Independence, that document is the genesis of all of that. And so what does it mean? What's the significance of it? And I mean, what I wanted to start with actually is just the idea of why we would care anyway, and whether it's okay to be patriotic, And I think usually we think of patriotic people as just like, I don't know, old guys watching TV with a beer. I don't, like.
What? That's not what I think of with patriotic people. But
yeah. Like, who's going to be cheering on America, on 4th of July? Not all the cool kids.
Yeah, I guess.
See, I don't know about you. I mean, I was a cool kid at one point in history.
Yeah.
So we grew up in Mexico, and certainly for me, when I was a teenager, even then, like, it was never popular to be okay, like, patriotic about your country. Like, we'd all badmouth the government, and we would say Mexico sucks. Like, we wish we lived somewhere else, right? And it seems like, here in America as well, like, so many of us can kind of fall into that sort of cynicism, like, oh, the government just sucks. Like, we'd be better off somewhere else. So patriotism is kind of a stupid thing. I don't know. What is this? Is this just like the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I think there are a lot of people that are that way. But I definitely think there's a lot more people in America than anywhere else where you see the people that are very patriotic and, their country means a lot to them. Veterans or, people who serve in the military are a big deal.
No, that's true.
Like, unlike other places where it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, there's people that, that are in the military, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's true.
So I see both sides of it. I mean, I agree with you. I think there is a lot of cynicism for people who are just negative and are like, well, life is so unfair,
Yeah, no, like, I was going to say, like, the whole America thing is, like, funny. Like, it's funny. But it's also like, okay, well, wait a second. Like, I don't know. Are we actually okay? Like, do we like our country? Is it okay to be patriotic? Because I don't know. I consider myself very patriotic. And here's the thing, too. If you notice, it tends to be people who are new to the country or who moved from somewhere else. I mean, for me, it was a big deal to move here from Mexico. And, I loved Mexico. And I love Mexico in many regards. But it was, I don't know, I guess just a transition for me where I kind of just adopted this new country and kind of made it my own,
Yeah.
And I love it, and I want to love it, and I want what's best for it, I guess. And I know it's kind of corny.
Yeah.
Patriotism is, I guess, a little bit corny, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I'm not really I'm patriotic in the sense that I love where we live, and I'm grateful for it, and I respect and I honor, the people that serve in the military, and so I mean, I love America. Yeah, like, I like where we live and everything, but I mean, I'm not the kind where I'm like, we have to have a flag out front and we have to sing the songs and we have to, like, really, I'm not super, like, the gung-ho, but I mean, I'm patriotic in the sense of, like I think it's disrespectful if you don't sing the national anthem right. Yeah, I hate this country totally.
Dude, if you don't like this country, just go to Canada. Like, seriously. Or go back to Mexico. What's wrong with you? No, but look, I think we actually have good cause to be proud of our country. And I think there's something to be said for the term American exceptionalism. And I want us to see why, actually, by analyzing the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
In Federalist 1, actually, it says that the American government, the American form of government, is like an experiment in self-rule. It's an experiment in government, something that had never been done before in history. And that's true. Okay, this particular form of government, so the Republican form of government for a large territory, is something that was new. And everybody in the founding, like, they weren't sure that it was going to work out, you know? And so let's jump in then to the Declaration of Independence. In particular, it's really the second paragraph where we kind of get the nitty-gritty of what it's saying and the points that it's trying to make about what our government is supposed to be about. But let's read the first paragraph. Let's look at what it says. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Now, I think I wanted to read the first paragraph because we're going to kind of come back to it. But try to use your imagination about like the way that they're visualizing this. Notice that the context here is that every nation is outside of this middle ground, which is essentially the state of nature. So like we see even in this first paragraph the heavy influence of the Enlightenment philosophy of John Locke, right? And that the state of mankind, that we start in this state of nature. And so here's an example where you have an actual political document that is informed by a certain political philosophy. Okay, and we're going to unpack this a little bit. Let's go to the second paragraph where everything comes in here, and these are the points that we want to discuss today. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. Okay? So let's look at the first part here. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. So we all know from elementary school, middle school, right? We're taught that the Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal. And as we grow older and we kind of see, you know, the influence of slavery, especially that how that existed in the founding era, and obviously, and then beyond that, we start to get more cynical about like whether they actually meant that. Okay, so the questions here are: do they actually, when this is written, is it actually meant to say that all men are in fact equal? Or like many historians will say, oh, they just meant that just like white men are equal, and that doesn't include black people, that doesn't include women or something like that. And here's the contention that I want to make today. As we look at old documents and we look at the period of the founding, that is absolutely not true. It is in fact the case that these words are in fact meant as we would take them. Right? When we say that all men are created equal, right, the term men here, it's even true now or in other documents that it's really just a stand-in for mankind. Okay, that all men are created equal just means that all mankind. Did they really believe that? I think we're going to see that they do in fact believe that. But how's that possible if, like, for instance, women weren't voting or if there was still slavery? Yeah. Well, there's some more detail to get into that. But assume that, right, that all of that is correct. Just because, you know, something isn't corrected at that very instant doesn't mean that
it doesn't apply later on.
Well, right, or that they don't even mean it at the time. Yeah. And that they're not living up to the standard, right? So you can set a standard for yourself and you can fail at that standard. Does that mean that you weren't, that you didn't mean that standard to be the standard? No, you probably meant the standard to be the standard.
But you just
failed.
Yeah,
you just failed at it. Okay. So no. I mean, make no mistake. Let's look at the documents here. I think it's very evident that the founders, when Thomas Jefferson wrote this, that he absolutely meant that all men are created equal. All mankind is equal. So we're going to look at a few of these. So just a few proofs here. So James Wilson was a famous founder. And here is a quote that he gives us from his lecture on law, and this is 1791. In civil society, previously to the institution of civil government, all men are equal. Of one blood, all nations are made. From one source, the whole human race has sprung. Okay, and later in the same statement, he says, in the same state, the state of nature, no one can claim over another superior authority. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. That quote from Wilson, I think, is very evident. Like, I mean, look at that. Of one blood, all nations are made. From one source, the whole human race has sprung. Mm-hmm. Right? And he's saying in this context is what we mean when we say that all men are equal. Right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. We see others as well. And moreover, like if you actually look at old state constitutions and old state preambles, sometimes they would use the word mankind instead of men. The most typical was like all men are created equal. That's just kind of standard for mankind. Yeah. But some of them actually say mankind or all of human nature or something like that. Like the Georgia Constitution of 1776 uses the word mankind. Also, the Pennsylvania Declaration of Rights talks about that all of human nature is equal, right?
Yeah, and I mean, even in Jefferson, in his letter,
Jefferson's letter,
and in his letter to Roger Waitman, he says, "All eyes are opened, or opening, to the rights of man. The mass of mankind has not been born with saddles on their backs, nor a favored few booted and spurred, ready to ride them legitimately by the grace of God."
Right. No, that's one of my favorite quotes from Jefferson. Right. Mm-hmm. And this also, you know what? This also explained to us what is meant by equality. It explained to us what is meant by equality and how it does, in fact, apply to all men. So when founders say that all men are created equal, they simply mean what Jefferson says in this quote, right? That we are not so far different that it's evident that some people must be ruled by some other people, okay? Yeah. No men are born with saddles on their back, and there isn't a few elite that are born with boots and spurs ready to ride them, okay? So look, he's making a concession. Of course, some people, I don't know, have greater abilities than other people,
or born into something, born into wealth or whatever it be, having more opportunity to something.
Right. No, what the founders meant by equality was actually something very limited. Yeah. We tend to take it as this huge principle that we want to make exact, like, equality means that we're equal in every way? Equal in wealth? Equal in abilities? Of course not. I think we've discussed this before. Like, is there any chance
equal in
that
opportunities,
we can be equal to LeBron James? Impossible. Okay. As much you can wish it, you can try to mold society so that everybody is equal in basketball talent. What would it take? Guys, I'm not even joking. What would a government need to do so that we all have equal basketball talent? Go. What's the government going to do? Seriously.
I mean, that's impossible.
Actually, I wouldn't say it's impossible.
Okay. How would it happen then?
Well,
people's talent levels are different,
No, I know. But what I'm saying is that government is going to have to step in. And anybody who seems to have natural talent, well, they're gonna suppress them.
They're gonna be booted off.
They're gonna like brutalize their body or something so that they can't like shoot straight or something.
Oh right, so then
like
they kind of
mess up their arms.
You find like a medium of where like everyone's at, and then that's what you go with.
Right, and I know it sounds like a joke, but it's really not. I mean, there has to be a specific meaning to equality. Mm-hmm. You can't let this concept of equality to run wild. Right. And to say that, there must be equality. No. Like, I think we're starting to forget what we actually mean by this in the antiquity of our country. Okay? Right. The Declaration of Independence, just like Jefferson says here, equality simply means that even even though we have different natures, even though we have different abilities, right? And sometimes those differences can be large.
Mm-hmm.
What he's saying is that the differences are not large enough that some people deserve to be ruled without their consent. So actually, if we go back then to the text, right? Let's go back to the Declaration of Independence. Right. So all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Can we talk quickly about that part right there, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights? What's your opinion about that, Sal? Like, what strikes you about that little phrase?
Well, I mean, the thing that jumps out is the endowed by their Creator. Right. And so that kind of goes back to the part where you talked about, okay, there's no man that, can rule another man without their consent.
Yep.
Because the only person that does that, or the only being that has that authority over our lives, is the Creator. Right?
Oh yeah, that's right, and we actually see that in a lot of the documents. A lot of the logic that the founders put forth is that's another evidence of our equality. That so this is actually like Federalist 51. Federalist 51 says, "But what is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary." Another way to read that, and by the way, it says like if angels were to govern men. Another way we can put that is if God were to govern men.
Yeah.
So if God were to govern men, no external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. Meaning what? That God could rule without any, without any barrier that we would put. Like, would our consent be required? No. Like, I mean, if there's such a being of such ultimate authority and of such perfect nature, think about this, guys. Imagine that somebody exists of perfect goodness, perfect wisdom, right? Then of course you should simply submit to that person's authority. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't even have a say in it.
Yeah.
If that person is perfect and perfectly good and perfectly wise, then that being would have the absolute right, to simply take care of you, essentially, because he would be looking out exactly for your own good. Now, by the way, this is the way we deal with animals, right? When you adopt a puppy and bring the puppy home, did you ask for the puppy's consent? Did you ask the puppy, "Hey, are you okay with this?"
Yeah.
Of course not, right? And you don't feel bad about it. You don't feel bad about it because you know that you have the puppy's interest perfectly well in mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So again, going back to what Jefferson said, he's saying that despite the differences that there are legitimate natural differences, guys, between human beings. But in no way is the difference such like the difference between a puppy and a grown human being.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
We can rule puppies without their consent, and we know that we will do it for their good. Okay. But we can't trust each other to rule each other without our consent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's partly because men are no angels. If men were angels, then government would not be necessary.
Yeah.
So I love that from Federalist 51.
Yeah. Not to go off on a tangent too much, Jim, but when going back to the words, in the Declaration of Independence, the order of the unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I think, to me, out of those rights, life is the most important, the one that pops out to me the most. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that's the first one that kind of importance, like life. Sure. Going back to even last week, we talked about life, right? But
that's a good point. And look, the rights here are actually like inherently tied. Okay, so going back to the theory of why we're equal, right? So this goes back to the point that we are born. This is so beautiful in the Declaration of Independence because it's making a statement about the nature of mankind, that we are born equally free and with inherent dignity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at the phrase that we're endowed by the Creator with certain what rights? Unalienable rights.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The fact that we have unalienable rights simply means that the rights don't come into being magically when government starts.
Yeah.
Okay. You've probably heard this before. Like, we don't get our rights from government. Of course not. You know, human rights are just natural. They're natural. They're God-given rights. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Just the very fact that we say that we have this right to equality, meaning that no one has authority to rule us without our consent, that already ties liberty.
Yeah.
So actually, equality and liberty, sometimes they're kind of
Essentially the
played
same,
against each other.
Mm-hmm.
They should not be played against each other. They're actually not in this limited context in the Declaration of Independence. They don't really mean different things. They actually kind of mean the same thing, that we are all born equally free. As a matter of fact, that's how the Virginia, let me go back to this, the Virginia Declaration of Rights, look at how the Virginia Declaration of Rights puts it. That all men are by nature equally free and independent, and have certain inherent rights, of which when they enter into a state of society, they cannot by any compact deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety.
Mm-hmm.
So look, that's just another way of putting this.
Yeah.
The Virginia Declaration of Rights, all the Declaration of Rights of the several states have this language of the Declaration of Independence and actually flesh out its meaning, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But notice, it doesn't say here, it doesn't separate equality and freedom. It doesn't say all men are equal and then all men are free. No, it says all men are by nature equally free and independent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you say, Sal, that like life is so prominent there, yeah, no, that's true. And it's like the first one listed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first natural right listed, and it's the most basic. It's the most basic and most blunt, but it's also not the most complex and high in another manner.
Right.
Look at the last one, right?
Yeah,
the first one is life.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Liberty, that's essentially connected to our equal state in the state of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then pursuit of happiness. So the pursuit of happiness, that's, by the way, that seems a little vague, doesn't it to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
So then what? We're to say then that the goal of government is to secure, let me keep reading then. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Okay, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. So again, the Declaration of Independence says that the goal of government is to secure those rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, that seems pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Liberty, again, that's meant in the fact that we need consent. Right?
Yeah.
And by the way, consent is required in government not only at the beginning, but also as an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm. Because we are equally free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, this is how we keep tabs on our government, whether they're doing a good job or not. They have to keep asking us, hey, are you okay with this? Hey, are you okay with this? That's why we have elections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the last one is the vaguest,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how do we deal with that? And the pursuit of happiness. Now, by the way, I think it's worth pointing out that this formulation, life, liberty, and blank, I don't know if you remember from John Locke, Sal, but the typical way that goes, and you actually do see it in many other of the constitution, or the state constitutions,
Mm-hmm.
is life, liberty, and property. Okay, life, liberty, and property. Why is it that in the Declaration of Independence they put instead the pursuit of happiness? I don't think they're denigrating at all the idea of property. After all, you're going to see it in all the state constitutions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's that. I think it's trying to say something else about what government is supposed to give us. Not that. Guess what it doesn't say? It doesn't say life, liberty, and happiness. It says life, liberty, and
pursuit. I was going to say that, yeah. The pursuit of happiness.
That's right. And this is actually a little bit complex. I don't know how far deep we want to go into this, but here's where we can actually criticize a little bit. Let's try to criticize the founding. So, what would ancient civilizations say to this, right? What would the Greeks say to this? What would the Middle Ages, right, say to this formulation of government? Okay, you're saying, United States, that the purpose of your government is to ensure life and liberty and just the pursuit of happiness, so just allowing people to pursue their happiness as they see fit, right? So it seems like the standard that you're setting is a very low one.
Yeah.
Right? Plato, in the Republic, says that the objective of the state, the objective of the polis, of government, is actually the fulfillment of every individual. It's not fulfillment, but perfection. Yeah. Like seeking the good, seeking the best thing that like the army says, be all that you can be, or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. That's what ancient civilization said government is supposed to do. And what's special about the Declaration of Independence, what's special about the American regime, is that it actually has a much lower standard. It's like, we're just gonna protect these basic natural rights of life and liberty. Mm-hmm. But also, we're just going to allow a platform where people can pursue happiness as they kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that the ancients would just revolt at that. They would be like, well, you're just going to have chaos. But here's the point. When the founders talked about how they have that they had like an epiphany, that human civilization had an epiphany of how government is supposed to work. And that is actually to lower its standard. The reason government needs to lower its standard is because it kept getting it wrong. Okay? When you look at the history of the human race, it's one of devastation, it's one of tyranny, it's one of war, it's one of conflict.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's never going to stop, but we can have it more or less, right? We can have more peace or less peace.
Yeah.
But the point is, as we have learned from our experience, especially with world wars, that yes, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Okay, the ancients still had this idea that you have to give government absolute power so that they can mold the citizen, that they can mold every individual into this vision of the good, right? Mm-hmm. And we're all about the vision of the good, right? We're all about that. What we're not about is giving power to other people who are not what? Other people who are not angels, other people who are not God. Other people who are fallen, flawed human beings, whether they're a government or not, and to entrust them to mold you and to give you the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, right.
No. Mm-hmm. Like what the American founding does is it says, okay, we're gonna start a regime here where government steps down, and where government steps down, who's gonna step up? Well, other associations, not government, right?
Schools and churches, family,
absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was going to get into with the pursuit of happiness. I think they purposely also didn't just say like property or starting businesses or whatever.
Yeah.
That I think that falls in line with the category. But I think part of the reason, at least the way I see it, and this is my opinion, and the way when they use pursuit of happiness, I think they're probably thinking that could mean different things. We're not going to tell you exactly what happiness means. We're not going to impose this this is what God intended happiness to be, or what, you know what I'm saying? It was kind of but it could be different. There's different ways for it, right? Right. So that's part of them kind of the stepping down. I think that you're talking. You get what I'm saying?
No, I absolutely. And for instance, what are those the only rights? Well, those are the basic ones, but some follow from these. So for instance, part of liberty here also means like liberty of conscience, right?
Yeah.
And as we know, this is a huge principle in the American founding as well. It's one of the amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that we have freedom of conscience. And that's right. Like they're not going to impose their vision of the divine, right? That you have to adhere to this religion or anything else, right? But though, what the government does want to do actually is to kind of allow for these things to flourish, like allow the conditions where this can take place.
Yeah.
So another condition, this is also actually where property falls in, giving the conditions for the pursuit of happiness. Let's say you want to buy a house. Well, you need to get a loan. But why would the bank just give you a loan, right? What if they give you the money as a loan and you just disappear or you have to pay the mortgage and you just don't pay them. You just refuse to pay them. It's like, hey, I already have my house, suckers. Like I'm gonna lock all the doors and you know what I'm saying?
Or string up some balloons and just float off.
Right. Well, no, but government so that implies that government needs to set up contract law and everything else. I mean, that's so important, guys. By the way, I mean, if you read John Locke's Second Treatise of Government, he really spells everything out here, like why the right of private property is so important for happiness and for well-maintained society, for a happy civilization. But it goes beyond just that. I think they do want to make a hint here that it goes beyond just property rights. It's also just the conditions for a good life. Not anything that they would provide positively, but just allowing a platform where people can live the lives that we're used to living.
Right,
you know?
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's get into our game.
Yeah.
All right, so today we're going to be, Jim and I talked about maybe going back and repeating some of our games, kind of make it to where you're seeing us do some of these fun things again, right? So today we're going to be doing our Say the Same Thing, okay?
I love that one.
Yeah, Jim, why don't you kind of tell us again how this is going to work?
How does that work? Right, I remember. We count down to like 5, and we both say a random word, right? So based on the random word that we say, we then have 5 seconds to then try to say the same thing. So the idea being like maybe we use those words as to try to link them somehow so that we get to say the same thing.
Yeah.
So in theory, even if we don't get it, we should get closer and closer, or we might deviate completely and it's, chaos.
Right.
So
sounds good.
All right.
Let's see. Let's work together to get this.
All right. So let me think of a word. Okay. I think I have one.
All right. You ready?
So.
Wait. Let me think of a word. And this is the one where it can be anything, right? It doesn't.
Yeah, dude.
Remember, there was the one where, like, we can't.
The random game.
The random game.
I love that.
That one's hard. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Baseball.
Oh, dude.
Come on, dude. You said 1, 2, 3.
No, I was saying we're gonna do.
So
1,
now I
2,
need
3.
to come up with another word. Okay.
Yes, you do.
Come on. Let's see. Okay, I got it.
1, 2, 3. Tomato.
Yoda.
Tomato and Yoda. Dang. Oh man. Okay.
Oh gosh, wait. Tomato and Yoda.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Okay, here's okay. 1, 2, 3. Green
Chef.
ketchup.
Oh, what? Oh.
Green ketchup. Okay, so I said green ketchup.
I said
you said
chef.
chef. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
1, 2, 3.
Cooking.
Boyardee.
Oh my
man.
gosh.
Okay. Ready?
I
don't know.
Okay, here we go.
1, 2, 3.
Ravioli.
SpaghettiOs. Oh.
Okay, here we go. This is easy. 1, 2, 3.
Can.
Pasta. Oh my gosh.
Can and pasta. Okay, I mean, I'm gonna go with this. I don't know.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Tomato
SpaghettiOs.
sauce. SpaghettiOs again.
I guess. I don't know.
So I said tomato sauce. You said SpaghettiOs. Oh, dude, we're like, it's one of those, you know.
Okay.
You said SpaghettiOs. I said tomato sauce.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what we're gonna do. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. 1, 2, 3. Soup.
Bowl.
Oh my gosh.
We're
I said
so
soup.
close.
You said bowl. All right, I know what I'm saying now.
Okay, here we go.
1, 2, 3.
Spoon.
Yes. Dude, this game is great.
Yeah, this is awesome. Let's do it one more time.
Okay. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Babe
Gollum.
Ruth.
Oh gosh, Babe Ruth and Gollum. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ready?
Not really.
Babe Ruth and Gollum.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Ugly.
Hobbit. Ugly Hobbit.
Ugly Hobbit. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Feet.
Pippin. Oh man. Okay. What did I say? Pippin. You
I said feet.
1, 2, 3.
Harry. Okay. So that was our game, guys. Tell us maybe if you can remember some of the ones from past shows. If anyone's watching out there.
Yeah, which one should we do again?
Which one should we do again? Which one do
Yeah.
you like the best? Or again, if you have any ideas, I know I posted on Instagram talking about, hey, send us your ideas. Please do that. Please comment, email. We'll see it. Whatever it is, we'll see an idea, and if we like it, then we'll do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back into digging into the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to wrap up what we had said before, I think what's so beautiful about the Declaration of Independence is that it gives dignity to the individual human being, right? I mean, think about it, guys. Like, imagine if you were born in 13th century wherever you like, England, 13th century China, 13th century anywhere. When you're born, who are you when you're born? Okay, 13th century England, who are you? When you're born, are you free, a free individual? Are you equal and free when you're born? No, you're born a what? You were born a subject, right? That's really like look at history. That's essentially the story that we see going back to antiquity, right?
Yeah.
So our form of government, we should absolutely be proud of it. I mean, it gives dignity to the human being. All human beings are born free and equal, and that government, and that this is why government is by consent. Okay, and again, analyzing the era, it is certainly true that they meant that all human beings are equal. Now, objections are going to be raised. The two objections, of course, would be women and also slavery. So, when it says all men are created equal, does that mean black people? Does that mean women? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about the objection of women. So, I guess it's pretty obvious that there was not a right for women to vote.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair argument.
No, of course,
Definitely.
and on its face, I grant you, this seems so obvious, and here's the kind of defense that I want to make, and this is the defense that Thomas West makes in his book. Here's the thing, that's actually not 100% true. First of all, as a matter of fact, some women were allowed to vote in the founding period. An example actually is New Jersey. Actually, New Jersey in the 1790s and the 1800s, women were allowed to vote. And here's the snag too, though. Not just that women were allowed to vote, only certain women were allowed to vote. the women who were allowed to vote were women who were not married. Okay, and I think this actually gets to the logic that the founders had. Okay, I think it's just by reading everything, it's absolutely clear that they genuinely believe that all humankind is equal. They somehow didn't think that they were violating like the rights of women when they were saying that when they weren't allowed to vote. I think the right to vote in the founding was not really treated the way that we kind of think about it today. Like we really think of it as like the fundamental right. And obviously it is important. It's like where consent comes into play. But the way the founders kind of saw it is that, and we kind of see it in how New Jersey allowed women who were not married to vote, is they simply assumed that the household essentially votes as a unit, you know? They believed, of course, that men and women are equal, but they also, of course, believe in just the different roles of men and women. And they just kind of take it for granted that the man is kind of taking care of, you know, just the political issues and stuff like that. Now, really, and I really don't mean this as just as a throwaway line. I mean, I love the fact that we do share all of our responsibilities as husband and wife. Like, we actually are both men and women politically involved. Yeah. And I wouldn't change the fact. I wouldn't change the fact that women are allowed to vote. Okay? I'm simply saying that, you know, it certainly was a point in time where just in our everyday conventions, the way that men and women do differ was kind of more accentuated in the way that people live their life at this point in time. And nobody really saw any conflict in the fact that, you know, a dude is going to go vote, and he's basically voting for his family. It's kind of assumed. I don't think it's a crazy assumption to assume that everybody in the family is on board with how they're going to vote. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And, you know, sometimes you do see marriages where, like, you know, the guy votes Republican and the wife votes Democratic, right? That happens sometimes, but honestly, what percentage of the time does that actually happen?
Yeah.
Probably not very frequent. It's got to be a pretty small minority. And I think that's for good reason. You know, typically, politically, your family is kind of on the same page. Yeah. And I think that's legitimately the way they saw it. Now, also, I don't want to apologize for people in this time period either. I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of people, of course, in this time period that
didn't believe that they were equally free. Yeah.
Absolutely. But that doesn't take away from the fact that when you analyze the Declaration of Independence and all of these official documents, that they, you know, the more informed people, the people politically involved in the Revolutionary era, I think it's so evident that they genuinely believed with all their heart that all human beings have equal dignity. Okay, that women are equal, but then the question of voting. Okay, well, you know, we kind of look into that. They really had this idea that they wanted to put in good government. And that, for instance, there are also like property requirements for voting. Like, you weren't allowed to vote if you didn't own a certain amount of property, right? Right. Why was that? Because consent is required, but another aspect that the founders were looking at is that they want to have good government. And they were afraid that if you are somebody who really doesn't like have property, that essentially your vote is already kind of skewed. Like, maybe you're gonna, I don't know, like try to put in measures in place where you would rob people or something like that. I don't know, just something that where you don't really have the general. It's really more this that maybe your focus isn't so much on the common general good, but you're a little bit more self-interested. Like, you're looking out for what's going to be best for you. Right. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
So no, I mean, I really think that like I said, that the founders believe this. One interesting thing that Jefferson wrote, like, Jefferson boasted of the fact that American women are treated as equal in worth as men. So Thomas Jefferson says, "The Indian women are submitted to unjust drudgery. This, I believe, is the case with every barbarous people. With such, force is law. It is civilization alone which replaces women in the enjoyment of their natural equality. Okay. And by the way, I also found that the French explorer Champlain made the same observation about of Native Americans, Native American civilizations. Champlain says their women were their mules. Okay, so apparently there's a practice for Native Americans where even if they had horses, they would actually just force the women. Like you would see the men just kind of out and about, you know, and keeping the horses nice and fresh.
Yeah.
And all the women were like carrying all the equipment,
All the
like
stuff,
all the drudgery work, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we would see that. How would you feel when you see it? Like your blood would boil, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's because, I mean, if I do say so myself, we're civilized people.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
like Jefferson is saying, I mean, we have that background. We live in a civilization that values women, that treats women as equal, right? And okay, yeah, we have differences. I mean, we fully believe that men and women have different natures, that they differ in so many ways, but that they're absolutely equal in worth, okay? That they have the same natural rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, okay? And Jefferson saw this, and he's saying, oh, I mean, a measure of how civilized a society is in how women are treated in that society.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because what is the story of it? This is where I'm completely on board, where people say that, you know, men are such oppressors to women. Dude, actually, honestly, in the history of civilization, it is always a problem to civilize men. I mean, which is the stronger of the sexes? Men are stronger, right? That natural difference, given our fallen condition, given the way that we're just kind of screwed up human beings, women have been mistreated all throughout history, and it requires a high degree of civilization to recognize the equal humanity of women and of all other people.
Yeah.
Right? And it is, in fact, the measure of a good civilization as to whether women are treated well. Okay? So that's the whole thing about being a gentleman. Like, that's another show that we need to do some other time, Sal. Like, it seems to me like the way men are categorized today, you've got your barbarian men, you've got your wimpy men, and then maybe hopefully you find here and there a gentleman.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a thing, guys. Being a gentleman is a thing. And it's being aware that that sometimes women do need some a special amount of protection because there are dudes out there that are going to be victimizing them.
Yeah.
And by the way, the fact that women were voting in New Jersey if they were not married, Thomas West tells us that was the first time in human history, the very first time in human history that women voted was in New Jersey in the Revolutionary period in the United States of America. Okay, so the point being, again, I don't want to, like I said, of course there were people who still didn't believe that women were equal.
Yeah.
The point is, the only limited point that I'm trying to make here is that we should absolutely be proud of the genesis of this country. We should absolutely be proud of the Declaration of Independence, of the principles that we stand for, because that gauntlet was laid down. Those principles were laid down, and we weren't conforming to them perfectly.
Yeah.
You know what? As time went on, we actually started...
it started to make sense.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what they meant by that. This is what's happening.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
and living up to it. Right?
Yeah.
So women's suffrage came in.
Yeah.
Freeing all slaves came in later on, and that was a huge struggle.
Yeah.
So.
You know, and you talk about the different, about this civilized man, and the oppression on women, and that you see that, and I think, it still happens even in our country, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I think something just to encourage men out there, just really see, the people around you, maybe people closest to you, You know, are they? You can tell right away the way they treat their mothers, the way they treat their sisters. We grew up with 5 sisters, and I mean, it was without a doubt like don't look at them the wrong way, don't speak to them the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
Did we still fall? Yeah, of course we did, right?
Right.
But we learned from that, right?
Yeah.
And I mean I'm saying this to like make people aware as to how we can grow in that, right?
No, yeah, and I get it. Like, this is a bigger issue than we're giving it time right now.
Yeah.
But and I get it. Like, when people are like you can overdo that, right? Like, being like overly courteous about like holding the door. For
yeah.
You should hold open a door for a girl, right? But sometimes you'll make it awkward, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that girls don't like to always be reminded. Oh yeah, like the gentleman, or like, oh, you know, all these traditions. Like, just treat me like an equal. I totally
get that too. Yeah.
But I think there is actually something to be said for the fact that, dude, the history of civilization is barbarian men freaking going roughshod over women.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a certain amount of taming that needs to be done of the male.
Yeah.
Okay? Can I just go on this real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's why men must hold open a door for a woman. You know why? Because it makes the men feel good. It's kind of like when a dog does a good trick, and you give him a little prize. Okay. So likewise, a dude holding a door open for a girl, and the girl saying, "Oh, thank you." The guy's like, "Okay, I did good. I did good for the lady.
I didn't attack her."
No, but like it's like no.
No, I get what you're saying.
That you get like a social prize. Like, you're like, "Oh, hey, you know, that's so cute of you."
That's the taming, right there.
That is the taming of the man. That is it. Okay, and my point is that like, I don't know, that testosterone laden barbarian man needs kind of an outlet where that goes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Instead of his prize being like dragging the girl, you know, by her hair or something like that, the prize is this social norm that, oh, okay, well, you know what, that guy's a gentleman. Like, he's, you know, I don't know. There is something to this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're gonna have all the feminists like write in or not, but probably hating us right now. So we get so many dislikes right now.
Well,
but I don't know. That's crazy to say that we should all be gentlemen. Is a bad thing to say in today's day and age. I don't know.
Well, Jim, let's get into the bigger question. You know. Because of course we can talk about women, and I mean, yes, I don't want to brush that off. Like, that's a big deal, right? But I think the tougher and bigger question here, and that people can make an argument about what the founders are talking about, is with African Americans, you know, or black people, you know, in general.
Yeah, so that's the other big one, right? Like, obviously the founders didn't mean it because, well, I mean, did they end slavery at that minute in time?
No, of course not.
Now, that's going to be a bigger conversation. I think we're going to save that one for the next show. So that's what we'll do. We're not going to... That's the bigger one, so we'll spend some time on that. Yes, of course. I would say that, just a spoiler alert, I guess our argument would be the same. Like, we're not going to defend, obviously, anybody who is still enslaving people at the time.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Our broader point is that the Declaration of Independence set this in motion. The principle was there. The principle was made. Okay. Human beings being what they are, we shouldn't be surprised that things weren't immediately rectified.
Yeah.
I think we shouldn't be surprised by that. But this is something that we need to explore a little bit more in depth, and we'll do it next time. So.
Awesome. So let's get into our classic hate and like. Here we go.
Yeah. All right,
Jim. So I have the hate. So I'll go ahead and start. Now, we laughed at me saying at the end of the day, because it is part of my hate. Okay. Now, my hate today is certain phrases that are overused, or not necessarily overused, Well, yes, overused, but then also used just in like it's like you didn't need to use that.
Okay.
Right?
Like it doesn't make sense, or
Like it doesn't make sense, or like it's just like, come on, like just chill out. Think of a different way to say
or you
that,
just
right?
hear it too much.
Or you hear too much. I don't know. Well, let's just get into it, okay?
Oh, okay.
So like me using at the end of the day,
Uh-huh.
that was a legitimate way to use that.
Mm.
Because what they're thinking at the time, like I'm talking about, the Americans, or the early Americans are fighting for their independence, right? And they have people of different race and colors all around. They're like, you know what? It doesn't matter. You want this like I do, right? And we're going through all these things. So at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. What matters is that we fought together and now we have freedom, right? So, but here's the thing. With the time, sometimes this is just overused and it gets annoying, especially if you follow sports. When, you get people like we talked about LeBron James. Sure, I've heard him say it many times.
Oh yeah.
He's just like maybe 3 times in a conversation.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we fought and
have to be aggressive.
we have to be aggressive at the end of the, and just like fight for it, because at the end of the day, we're playing for a championship, and when we win the championship, we're gonna, we're gonna bring, we're gonna bring this a trophy back to the Lakers, because they've just been terrible in the last few years,
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's all that matters,
Yeah. No.
That's terrible. I mean, like, I can't stand it.
We do use it a lot.
And it's just, it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I think I use it a lot.
Now, here's the next one, okay?
Yeah.
I think I'll save the worst one for last. So the next one I was going to say is and I do this, I'm fall victim of it, is saying literally a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's kind of famous now.
yeah, it's like,
okay, literally, this is the worst day of my life.
oh, really? You mean that literally? As opposed to figuratively? Like, even though, wait, I guess that could be figuratively.
Well, figuratively
the worst.
is what we want to be saying. Every time,
exactly.
Literally, every time you say literally, you
Literally.
probably should say figuratively.
Yeah, see, it's funny. Like, I'm ranting about it right now, but I'm trying to think of a time when it's the dumbest way to say it. Right?
You are literally...
Oh, no, so, like, this is literally blue. No, duh, it's blue. Like, you don't need to tell me that it's literally blue. I know that it's blue because it's blue. Yeah. So don't say literally. Just say this is blue.
Dude,
this is literally blue.
You should be happy that they're using the term correctly.
But you don't need to tell me that it's literally blue, because I know that's not literally.
The problem here is that people are using literally when it's not the applicable word. Like, for instance, when people say that, like, somebody is literally Hitler. Well, they're
right.
not literally Hitler. They're figuratively Hitler.
Yeah, but no, like, I guess that's... maybe we just think differently on this, Jim, because when I'm thinking... Like, when I say you are literally Hitler, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
And so that's the funny part. That's the part where you're like, oh, he's literally Hitler. Well, we know that you're not literally Hitler, right?
Right.
Just like, but like, if I had Hitler here and I go, this is literally Hitler. I know this is Hitler. You don't need to tell me that it's literally Hitler.
Okay.
Does that not make sense?
Yeah, but the problem is I literally have not seen anybody use the term literally correctly. I've never had somebody say, this is literally a mug. No.
I feel like I've had.
Okay.
I mean, I'm clearly talking about it, and I feel like I have heard people do that. I don't need you to tell me that's literally something when it already is that.
Okay.
Fair
enough.
To me, it makes me think like, you think I'm an idiot. I don't literally think that that's black. I know that it's black. You don't even tell me that it's literally black.
Honestly, we have to drop the word because it's driving me crazy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Here's the next one, and this one is again, a lot of these things is because I listen to sports things, podcasts and stuff, and these are used a lot. So
you have trouble thinking about it. It's getting on you.
Dude, it's just terrible. and I don't understand it. Now, it's when people say they're referring to somebody as, here, let me just say it, okay, because it's kind of hard to explain for a second. Let's say someone was talking about me and you.
Mm-hmm.
So then they would say, the Sals and the Jims of the world. What in the world does that even mean? Okay? So, for instance, I'll put it on in where I hate it, in the sports way. Okay? So, maybe people are talking, there's people talking about the Golden State Warriors, right? They're awesome, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about specifically Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry, right? So why do you need to why can't you just say Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, right? There's no other Klay Thompson. There's no other Steph Curry. Maybe other people play similar roles as them.
Yeah.
And maybe then you can say the Steph Currys and the Klay Thompsons of the world.
Yeah.
But
no, otherwise it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but people use it in the context of just like as if there's other Currys and there's other Thompsons on the same team. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, yeah, they're too unique. Like, why would you be making you're generalizing people when the generalization is not appropriate?
Yes, exactly. And people do it all the time. And what bugs me even more is that it's like it makes people say it and don't realize that they're wrong when they're saying it because they think it makes them sound smart. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And that bugs me even more to the core.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't need like.
What are you talking about?
It's like, you sound so smart when you're saying, the Jims and Sals of the world. Like, you sound so wise, don't you? Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm totally just overdoing this. I don't
think I hear that too much, but I've heard it.
Yeah, I hear it a lot just because, again, it's said a lot in sports, but it's just not used correctly all the time.
All right, so something that I like.
Cheer me up, Jim.
Dude, I mean, when we get close to July 4th, like I said, like I'm the patriotic, 4th of July slappy guy. You know what I'm saying? So, at this time, I actually really get a hankering to watch this movie that I really loved when it came out, and I still love it, and that is National Treasure. And as I was looking up the trailer for it, Sal, it is really depressing for me to think of the fact that this came out in 2004. National Treasure came out in 2004. In my mind, it's still kind of like a new movie. It's like iPhones had not come out, and this movie was,
I know it seems weird. It seems like it's more relevant than it really is.
Yeah, like iPhone is just like era defining. So, yeah.
But when you think about it, like, when's the last time Nicolas Cage was in a like big movie?
Yeah, I mean, to my mind, it's really that one. I'm not a huge Nicolas Cage fan, but I think he's really good in that role. Yeah,
that was the perfect role for him.
He's great in that. I just love that movie so much. I love the fact that the movie like really respects our tradition, our founding. It has a lot of weird stuff, like all this, like the occult,
the cult stuff, yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff that there's not really a whole lot of truth to it, obviously.
Yeah.
With the Masons and all this stuff, I don't know. There obviously there's some weirdness to the Masons and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like gets you in like the Dan Brown territory and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
you're gonna kill me.
It's just a really cool adventure movie that is like high on loving America, and I don't know. I love it. I love this.
Don't tell me what to do at the end of the day, okay?
Let me show this clip from the movie, which I think is kind of representative of the feeling of the movie that I'm trying to convey.
Yeah.
I think this is a good clip.
That really is a nice collection. Must have taken you a long time to hunt down all that history.
If it's any consolation, you had me convinced.
It's not.
I was thinking, what if we go public, plaster this story all over the internet? It's not like we have our reputations to worry about. Although, I don't think that's exactly gonna scare Ian away.
180 years of searching, and I'm 3 feet away. Of all the words written here about freedom, there's a line that's at the heart of all the others. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. People don't talk that way anymore.
Beautiful. Huh. No idea what you said.
It means if there's something wrong, those who have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action. I'm gonna steal it.
What?
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Ben?
All right, man. That takes me back, dude. That's great.
Yeah.
We need to watch that. I'll
Yeah,
watch that with you.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
good.
mean, on July 4th.
Yeah.
We should watch it then. So.
All right.
And like a root beer float.
In a
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And,
We'll get the Oreos that are like that have the red,
Yes,
white, and blue.
Yes. And we'll sing some patriotic songs, you know?
Yeah.
Why not?
Right, totally. Okay, guys. So there's another classic edition of the Worldview Bros.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and hey, like, game, everything. Tune in for next week. You know, again, we're gonna be tackling. We're gonna just keep moving forward and tackling that big question with equality and what the founders, you know, how it applies to all mankind.
Yep.
Again, we'd like for you to like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, send us an email, please. If you have a question, concern, game idea, remember, we need your ideas on games. That'd be great. We want to be playing the games that you want to see. We have a couple other fun ones that we're going to be, again, we'll repeat some and then every now and then be adding some more fun ones. Make sure also to, keep track with us on I said follow us on Instagram and Twitter, but more importantly, Jim and I like to get into shenanigans, especially this summer. We've been to Six Flags, going getting coffee at Taco Bell.
Right.
What? Who does that? Walmart runs. It gets interesting, okay? Kind of see a different side of us.
Fascinating stuff.
So fascinating. So deep, right? So rich. So please check us out, get to know us. You kind of see a different side of us, right? All right. So again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on the Worldview Bros.
All right. See you guys.
Today on the Worldview Bros, we talk about America, in particular Declaration of Independence. Did the founders really mean it when they said that all men are created equal? What exactly do we mean by equality anyways? And what's so important about this document? Isn't the Constitution the true founding of the United States? We will discuss this in full in this very patriotic edition of the Worldview Bros.